So I personally believe that local dirt racing is in trouble, and today we're going to be talking about why and what we can do to maybe better the situation. So for you guys that don't know me, my name is Tanner Holmes and I'm a 21-year-old 410 sprint car driver out of Southern Oregon. I began my journey in the sport of dirt racing in 2008 at the age of 5. I watched NASCAR as a young kid. I went to my first race and I just fell in love with it. I got behind the wheel and I wouldn't necessarily say I was a natural. It took me a little bit to get up to speed, but man, I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and even though I was a first generation driver, like quickly it gets in your blood and then, you know, it just grows from there. And you think the going fast part is bad. Well, actually a couple seasons in, once I started winning and consistently and like getting better and better, like man, I was hooked. And I knew right then and there that I wanted to be a race car driver someday. So that's a little background on myself, as I've been a local racer before. Now, you know, trying to move up, I'm trying to do this more on a professional level. And trust me, that's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do in my life. But now let's talk about what local dirt racing is. To keep it simple, local dirt racing is a guy that, you know, works all week, Monday through Friday or Monday to Saturday. He has his car, which, you know, they have bang banger divisions, they have Hornets, they have 4 cylinders, you know, street stocks, hobby stocks, maybe late models, maybe modifieds, maybe even an entry-level sprint car class. And he drives 10, 15 minutes down the road, maybe a half hour, maybe an hour, maybe farther, you know, whatever. But there's tracks all across the United States and they're going out there and it's more of like an amateur level racing. They're having fun. They're not racing for a ton of prize money, maybe a trophy. And this is taking place every Friday or Saturday night, and it's happening, you know, spring through fall. So like everyone, I started out as a local racer, and I know the importance of having a successful local dirt track and how important it is across the United States for the sport as a whole. So that's why today's topic is so important. To start off is, this is the obvious. I mean, this is the entire world. Number one for all dirt tracks, we got rising costs. And this isn't even just for the tracks. This is for the racers, and this is also for the race fans. Everything in the world is way more expensive than it even was 5 years ago. So I could sit here all day and list out all these things that are way more expensive and how costs have went up for everyone, but I just don't think that would do us any good. We already know that. Number two, competition. Competition right now in this world is through the roof. There's just so many other forms of entertainment going on a Friday or Saturday night that I think are just so much more appealing to the younger generation, and honestly nowadays even the older generation. What, honey?
What are you doing?
Babe, I'm literally recording a video right now.
Well, are you almost done?
I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm literally recording right now. The record button's on.
Oh, shoot. Well, tell them I said hi and that I want you to come over to my house. Sorry.
That actually works out perfectly.
You can cut this, right?
Yeah, I probably can.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Look at that. Distractions. That was my girlfriend, Jessica. She races too. But what I was getting ready to say, this thing right here, and I feel like I'm 65 years old saying this, but this thing right here is one of the biggest distractions from a lot of things in life. And I really believe just in the times that dirt racing is seeing some of that and seeing the effects. With that being said, this device also does a lot of good in our sport. So I really don't like to dog on it. I'm just kind of, you know, playing both sides. So my last thing to hit on, and I actually think this is more valuable than most think. Rising costs, competition, and we have no more local stars. And this is kind of an interesting topic, and one I hadn't really thought about before until I was actually watching a podcast recently with Kenny Wallace and Mark Richards from Rocket Chassis. And one of the things that Mark was really speaking on is how nowadays, because we have streaming and we have all of our superstars in our sport right at our fingertips, how now it really doesn't mean as much for the local guys and to go and watch them, because you can go to a local race and there'll be people that have Flow and Dirt Vision right on their phone, and they know that local late model driver they're watching that's, you know, on an open trailer doing the best he can, there's no way he could run with a Jonathan Davenport or a Bobby Pierce. Like, he would be getting lapped. And to clarify, this is not me dogging on the streaming platforms and dogging on anyone. It's just kind of how things have evolved over time in the spot that we're currently in. But I do believe that is true. Like, when you think about it, the disconnect that it's caused, at least from what I heard back in the day, people say, the 70s, 80s, 90s, like like what dirt racing was built on was local stars all across the country and guys that were trying to build a name for themselves to move on to something bigger, or to just be that local hero, the guy that was known in town for, you know, being the great race car driver that he was and the track champion. And I guess just nowadays we don't have that as much for one reason or another, but I actually do believe that that is a big part of how we ended up in this spot today, with local racing being a very scary position, and honestly I feel like national racing like surging higher than ever in a very good spot. So rising costs, competition, no more local stars, these are just a few examples that I could come up with, but there definitely is more, and we would need a lot more time to talk about all those reasons. But I think now it's important to talk about what do we do next to help local racing, or is it even possible to be saved at this point? And this is the part of the show where, like, I tell you, I really have no idea. Like, I feel like some nights I lose sleep thinking about this. I talk about it with my friends, with other racers, and like, I don't know what to do to make this situation better. I mean, this one's a head scratcher. It really is, especially in these times. You are seeing more tracks being sold. They're worth more for just the property and to be turned into housing or apartments. Or some tracks are just only hosting big shows because that's the only way to make money. They basically lose money all year, and then the Outlaws or High Limit rolls into town and they finally get a paycheck, and it makes all their work worth it. So I do think there's not one simple fix, and I think every racetrack is in their own unique situation in their area and what they have to deal with. Now, I think to start out, it's very important that all tracks in one area work together. In these times that we are in, you all have to be in this together. To some, this may sound simple, but you would be surprised how across the entire country, how many tracks, like if I had both my fists, I'd be showing you how they just butt heads. It's crazy to me. But man, it happens more often than it should. Next, I would say all tracks need to be working on this. We talked about it earlier, but getting the word out about your track, you know, advertising, awareness, all of that I think starts here, because you just gotta be in front of the younger kids' faces nowadays. And that's what we're working on, because a lot of the older, the diehards, the loyal ones that did go to the dirt track every single Saturday night and spent their hard-earned money, like, they unfortunately are moving on. That generation is fading away, and now this younger generation is who we need to get excited. And I think, like I said, a lot of it just starts with this. And to piggyback off that, tracks really have to focus on building their brand and elevating it, and also incorporating drivers and making their local guys their stars. And then the drivers also have a part in contributing to that as well. So moving on to what else, I do think that racetracks really have to look at themselves in the mirror and their schedule. And maybe it does mean that as a dirt track, you have to race a little bit less. Of course, you don't want to be only big events, but you want to be somewhere in between only big events and racing literally your heart out every Saturday night. I think in these times, drivers and fans just can't, like, there's just not enough for it all to go around. So you really have to look in the mirror and figure out a schedule that kind of works for all. Now, I totally understand as a dirt track, if you're not racing, you have no opportunity to make money. So I totally understand that. It's just, I think it's got to be a healthy balance all the way around. And so that leads me into my final point. As a dirt track in your area, is there a way to use your facility for more than just dirt racing? Just something to think about, something to chew on. You know, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times tracks have a lot of acres. They have some land. Like, is there a way that could be used to make money for the racetrack and make that a part of their business? I feel like I've seen a little more of that recently, just because tracks have had to do whatever they can to survive. So maybe that's the direction that owning a dirt track is heading. I can tell you this, the last thing you want is your local track to look like this. This is the backyard track. This poor thing, like, man, it needs some serious love. This shows how busy life is. But the best picture that I can paint for you is if local racing, if things don't, I feel like if we don't have a change, we're gonna see more tracks looking like this, like we've already kind of seen a lot on social media, and it's just super unfortunate. I also want to clarify, I by no means think it is easy to run a dirt track. I actually think in this sport, it's the hardest thing to do. Promoting, running a track, trying to get fans, you know, playing that game. Don't get me wrong, it's hard what we do, trying to own a race team, trying to travel. But I think right now in this time, you know, owning a track, man, like I don't envy the job that people that are involved with that have. And I just want nothing more but all dirt tracks to be successful in the United States. It's what we love to do. And to finish off today's show, the best thing I can tell you all is get out and support support your dirt track. If you want to see it stick around, spend your hard-earned money. I know it's not easy to even be a race fan nowadays, but we all just have to contribute and do our part. Thank you so much for watching today's show. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Maybe you think I'm completely wrong. Maybe you have something beneficial to add to the conversation. Let me know in the comment section down below, and we will see you all in the next video. Deuces.